My sister looked at me across her own engagement dinner, swirling the wine in her glass, and said, "Loud enough for all 14 guests to hear. Some of us actually build a life. Some of us just exist." She called me the failure. Right there, at Viano's on Hartwell Street, in front of her fiancé's entire family. 40 minutes later, her fiancé got a call from his property manager about a maintenance request at his building on Ashford Row. He laughed, set the phone down, and said, "I still don't even know who actually owns that place. Some ghost LLC." I didn't say anything. I just kept eating my salad, because I did know who owned it. I'd signed the purchase agreement myself 14 months earlier for $1.4 million. If you enjoy stories where the truth always finds its way out, subscribe. We've got many more stories just like this. My name is Olivia Marsh, 32 years old. This is the story of the night my sister called me a failure at her own engagement party, and what happened when the truth about who I actually was finally caught up with her. I need to take you back 6 years, because none of what happened at Viano's makes sense without understanding what my family actually thought I did for a living, and how carefully I'd let them keep believing it. I taught 3rd grade at Lyndale Elementary in Cedar Rapids. That part was real. I loved it, still do. What my family didn't know, what almost no one in my life knew, except my accountant and my property manager, was that teaching had never been my only income, and hadn't been for a long time. My grandfather, Walter Marsh, had spent 40 years buying small rundown properties around Cedar Rapids and fixing them up himself, one at a time, mostly duplexes and small apartment buildings nobody else wanted. When he died in 2015, he left me not my sister, not my parents, me specifically 3 of those properties outright, along with a letter that said, "You're the only one who ever asked me how the numbers actually worked instead of asking how much they were worth." I was 26. I didn't sell them. I learned how to run them instead, working with my grandfather's old property manager, a steady, unflashy man named Derek Wu, who'd been managing buildings in this city for 23 years and knew every code inspector, every reliable contractor, and every mistake a young landlord could make before I made most of them myself. Over 6 years, I reinvested almost everything. I refinanced 2 properties to buy a 3rd. I bought a 4th outright in 2019 after a good year of rental income and a modest inheritance from my grandmother. By early 2024, I owned 5 properties through a holding company called Cedar Ridge Holdings LLC, worth, on paper, just over $4 million, generating enough net income that my teaching salary was, honestly, closer to pocket money than my actual livelihood. I never told my family any of it, partly because I liked my quiet life, the modest 2-bedroom apartment I rented on purpose, the 10-year-old Honda Civic, the substitute teaching I still picked up in summers, because I genuinely loved the classroom, and partly, if I'm honest, because I knew exactly what my mother and my sister would do with that information, and I wasn't ready to find out. My sister, Jessica, was 2 years younger and had built her entire identity around being the visible success in the family, an event planner with a growing client list, a downtown social circle, a habit of narrating her own life like it was a highlight reel other people were lucky to witness. My mother adored her for it. My mother's love for me had always come with a faint undertone of confusion, like she couldn't quite figure out what to be proud of. When Jessica got engaged to Ryan Coswell, a marketing director at a mid-sized agency downtown, my mother started a group text that ran almost daily for weeks' venue options, cake tastings, photos of Jessica's ring. I liked the photos. I meant it when I said congratulations. I didn't expect the engagement dinner to be the night everything I'd kept quiet for 6 years came apart in front of 14 people. The engagement dinner was at Viano's, a small Italian restaurant on Hartwell Street that Jessica had chosen specifically because it photographed well, according to a comment she made twice while we were being seated. 14 guests, our parents, Ryan's parents, a handful of close friends on each side, my sister glowing in a green dress she'd clearly picked to be photographed in from every angle. It started the way these things always started with Jessica, as a joke that wasn't really a joke. Somewhere between the appetizers and the entrees, She turned to Ryan's mother and said, gesturing at me with her wine glass, "This is my sister, Olivia. She teaches 3rd grade." A pause, just long enough to land. Very stable. Very modest life. I smiled and said something about how I loved my job, which was true. Jessica kept going. "I mean, someone has to be the practical one, right? While the rest of us actually build something." She laughed, and a few people at the table laughed with her. The uncertain laugh people give when they're not sure if they're supposed to. I let it go. I'd let 100 versions of that same comment go over the years. And I'd learned that responding usually just gave her more material, but she wasn't finished. Later, as dessert arrived, she raised her glass for a toast, thanking everyone for coming, thanking Ryan's parents for welcoming someone like me into a real family, and then, turning slightly toward me, added, "Loud enough for the whole table, some of us actually build a life. Some of us just exist. And that's okay too, Leave. Not everyone has to want more." The table went quiet in that specific way. Tables go quiet when someone has said something everyone recognizes as cruel, but no one wants to be the one to name it. My father looked down at his plate. My mother laughed nervously and said, "Jessica, honestly," in a tone that wasn't quite a correction. Ryan looked uncomfortable, glancing at me like he wasn't sure whether to apologize on her behalf. I didn't say anything. I finished my salad. If your sibling said something like that to you, in front of 14 people, at their own engagement party, would you have stayed quiet or said something right there at the table? Let me know in the comments, because what happened next wasn't something I planned. It just happened to be true. About 40 minutes later, while the table had moved on to coffee and Jessica was showing Ryan's mother wedding venue photos on her phone, Ryan's own phone buzzed. He glanced at it, sighed, and answered quietly, stepping half-turned from the table. I caught pieces of it, something about a leaking pipe in Unit 4B, a maintenance request, a callback number. When he hung up, he set the phone down and said, mostly to his father, in the easy, complaining tone people use about landlords they've never met. That was the property manager about the building. 3rd issue this month. I swear, I still don't even know who actually owns that place. Some ghost LLC out of a P.O. box. You call, and it's always Derek this, Derek that, never an actual owner. Ryan's father laughed and said something about how all property management companies were like that these days. Faceless corporations nobody could ever actually reach. Jessica, only half listening, said, "Don't get him started on that building. He's been dealing with this landlord nonsense for months." I felt my stomach tighten in a way I hadn't expected, because I knew exactly which building he meant. Ashford Row, Unit 4B, a leak in that unit's upstairs bathroom. I'd approved a $2,200 repair estimate for 2 days earlier. An email still sitting in my inbox from Derek with the contractor's quote attached. I could have said nothing. 6 years of silence had a lot of momentum behind it, and some part of me was already calculating how to let this pass the way I'd let everything else pass that night. But Jessica turned to me then, still riding the high of her earlier comment, and said, with a small, careless laugh, "Liv, you'd never understand landlord drama. You've probably never even had to deal with a difficult one." She said it like a joke, a light little addition to the evening's running theme of what I did and didn't understand about real, adult, successful life. "Actually," I said, "I own the building." The table went silent again, differently this time. Jessica laughed first, a short, confused laugh, the kind people make when they think they've misheard something. "What?" "Ashford Row," I said. "Building on the corner, 6 units, brick facade, built in 1987. I bought it 14 months ago for $1.4 million. Derek Wu is my property manager. He's the one who's been fielding your maintenance calls for the last 6 months, Ryan. I approved the repair estimate for your bathroom leak 2 days ago." Ryan's face went through several visible stages. Confusion, disbelief, something close to embarrassment. "Wait," he said. Your Cedar Ridge Holdings. That's the LLC on our lease. That's my company, I said. I've owned 5 properties since 2019. I do it quietly because I like my life the way it is, and because, frankly, I learned a long time ago what happens in this family when I have something worth talking about. I looked at my sister. You called me a failure 20 minutes ago in front of everyone here. I let it go, the way I've let it go for years, because arguing with you at your own engagement dinner felt like the wrong night for it. But I'm not going to sit here and let you tell me I don't understand what building something looks like, while your fiancé is currently renting an apartment from the thing I actually built. Jessica's face had gone somewhere between white and furious. You're lying, she said, though her voice had lost most of its earlier confidence. I took out my phone, pulled up the Cedar Ridge Holdings ownership documents I kept saved for exactly the kind of tax season conversations I'd never expected to be having at a dinner table, and set it in front of Ryan. He scrolled through it slowly, the LLC registration, the property deed with the Ashford Row address, my name listed as managing member. She's not lying, Ryan said quietly, looking up at Jessica. This is real. This is the actual ownership filing. My mother spoke first, her voice thin. Olivia, why didn't you tell us any of this? Because every time I've had something good happen in my life, this family finds a way to make it about how it compares to Jessica, I said. I bought my first property at 26, and nobody asked me a single question about it at the funeral where I inherited it, because everyone was too busy asking Jessica about her new job title. I didn't hide this because I was ashamed of it, Mom. I hid it because I got tired of watching things I cared about get turned into ammunition for a competition I never agreed to be part of. Jessica was quiet for a long moment, staring at the phone still sitting on the table between us. When she finally spoke, her voice had lost its earlier performance entirely. You've been our landlord this whole time. You've had access to our lease, our rent payments, our maintenance history, and you never said anything. I never looked at your file specifically, I said. Derek runs day-to-day operations. I review the portfolio quarterly. I genuinely didn't know it was your unit until you complained about the leak tonight. That part was true, and I watched it land differently than anything else I'd said, like the absence of some imagined surveillance made the whole thing feel less like a trap and more like something that had simply, coincidentally, been true the entire time. Ryan's father, who'd been quiet through most of this, finally said, mostly to break the silence, "Well, that's certainly a story for the wedding toast." A few people laughed, the real kind this time, and something in the tension at the table loosened slightly. Jessica didn't laugh. She excused herself to the restroom, and when she came back 15 minutes later, her eyes were red, though she didn't say anything else about it that night. Ryan spent the rest of dinner unusually quiet, occasionally glancing at me like he was recalculating something. Jessica called me 3 days later. She didn't apologize outright. Not at first. She opened with a question instead, asking why I'd really kept it a secret for so long, in a tone that sounded less defensive than it had at the restaurant. I told her the truth again, more gently this time, that I'd built something slowly and privately, because privacy had felt like the only way to build it, without her turning it into a comparison before I'd even finished. She was quiet for a while. Then she said, "I've spent our whole lives thinking I was the one who had something to prove. I didn't know you were carrying something too. It wasn't a full apology. It was close enough that I let it be enough for that day." Ryan and Jessica's lease at Ashford Row came up for renewal that spring. Derek handled the renewal exactly the way he'd have handled anyone else's market rate. Standard terms, no special treatment either direction. I told him specifically not to give them a discount and not to raise their rent out of spite either. Just the numbers, the same as always. My mother has asked more questions about my work since that dinner than she had in the previous 6 years combined. I don't think she fully understands what I do, but she stopped narrating my life as the quiet, modest counterpart to Jessica's. Small progress, but real. I still teach 3rd grade. I still drive the same 10-year-old Civic. I don't know if I'll ever fully explain to my family why I built what I built the way I built it quietly, on purpose, away from a spotlight that had always belonged to someone else in every room I grew up in. But I stopped needing them to understand it the moment I stopped needing their permission to be proud of it myself. What would you have done in my place? Let me know in the comments. And if this story hit home for you, share it with someone who's ever been called the failure, by someone who had no idea what they were actually looking at. My sister spent 30 years thinking success only looked like the thing everyone could see, and it took one leaking pipe on Ashford Row to show her that the quietest person at the table is sometimes the one holding the whole building up.